Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the World Championship Series Challenger. We are here for day 2 of some StarCraft 2 action. American players duking it out to see who will move on to Premier League for Season 2 of WCS. Greetorp joining me again. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Doing great. Saw you playing some 2v2s earlier.
I was
getting in the mood.
just getting into it, feeling it out. I loved it. Lost some, won some. What are you going to do?
It's all good.
Standard RNG, right?
You played some pretty cheesy guys. So
I did play some pretty cheesy guys.
I understand. It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
For those of you tuning in, this is day 2 of the Challenger matches coming out of America. We've already settled 3 results. If you missed yesterday's matches, we saw Stardust win 3-2 over Huck, and Kane and Hydra both taking 3-0s over their opponents, Pili Pili and Zeal. Those 3 players will be competing in Premier League, and today we'll be bringing you viOlet up against coLqxc, followed by Puck versus Xenocider, then Estrella versus Masa, and to finish things up, we'll have Suppy play against his teammate Jaedong. Which match you most excited for, Greetorp?
Buddy, I have some caster bias coming in today. I think it's going to be Puck versus Xenocider. That is going to be all-time favorite matchup for today. I know there's other good matchups, don't get me wrong, but Puck versus Xenocider, I have vested interest in Puck doing very well, as I've helped him out a little bit in the past. I've definitely trained with him a lot. I'm really looking forward to watching him and seeing him just take off.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think Puck is someone that you and I both probably spent a lot of time talking to behind the scenes. Xenocider is really cool as well. That's the matchup I'm looking forward to the most. We're going to start things off with coLqxc going up against viOlet. Terran versus Zerg is a pretty interesting matchup these days. Mostly, I would say, because we see this this change to the Swarm host very recently. As far as the Swarm host not really being as much of a siege unit, and Terran's busting out mech a lot more often.
Yeah, and I think we might see that. I know coLqxc hasn't really been that type of person that likes to go mech all that much in TvZ. A lot of his training has revolved around just being really good with bio. He is that aggressive player. He was known to being super aggressive in the early stages of Wings of Liberty. I think that got very tempered, and he's actually taken the more American style, where it's just like you play theoretically correct, but it's very hard to play that way.
Yeah.
And you go from there. Oh, there we go. But you know, it's going to be tough because viOlet is one heck of a player.
Yeah. viOlet's very, very strong. The last time I got to see him play against any type of mech-based play, which coLqxc could definitely bring out, he's shown it in his past other previous TvZ matches. viOlet's a pretty aggressive player. He got wrecked pretty hard by Happy and Fragbite Masters group stage. This was a while ago, though. This is even before the Swarm host patch.
Yeah.
But he was already playing around very aggressively with early roaches. He's someone that likes to go for early roach pressure. I wouldn't be surprised if he went for any type of even throwing in banelings for an all-in to follow up with that at some point in this series. As we get ready, guys, we're loading into the first map. Make sure you hit us up with your predictions and what you guys think about today's matches. You can tweet at us at StarCraft on Twitter with the hashtag WCS. Let us know what your favorite match is. If you think Puck could take out Xenocider, if you think viOlet's going to be able to stop the mech. If we even see mech.
If we even see mech. Who knows? But it's going to be interesting. Of course, we got Suppy Jaedong and Estrella versus Masa. 2 matches that I'm really, really looking forward to because I think those two series are going to be very close. You know, a lot of people say Suppy is like a big underdog, but man, he's on a roll.
You were arguing with me on this one earlier.
He just 2-0'd Jaedong 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks. I mean, that's not that long ago, man.
He could be in top form. As you guys can see, we are now loaded into map number 1. Here at day 2 of the World Championship Series Challenger. In the bottom right position, spawning as the Red Zerg from Team NVUS, it is viOlet.
And in the top left-hand corner, as the Blue Terran, the board game terrorizing Terran, it is coLqxc. I don't know if you knew this, but coLqxc is like making his own board game, man.
I heard about that. Actually, I heard that a version of it is playable on or something, like it's like already like being put into some sort of like early access type thing.
Really?
Yeah. coLqxc's a smart guy.
He is a smart guy.
He's a bit of a thinker. I remember when Hearthstone was like first coming out, and like he was like telling me all this stuff about like these weird strategies. I'm like, is this just all you think about all day? He's like, I really like board games. So I was like, I don't think I would ever challenge coLqxc anything like chess. He's someone that really puts a lot of thought into his builds, and viOlet is someone, as you can see, who likes to I kind of already said this before we get into things, like a little bit cheekier, more aggressive, and does not surprise me. He's going for a fast pull. Firecake does something like this, but I don't think that viOlet will do it quite the way Firecake does, where Firecake doesn't even build lings, like he just rushes up to a queen. I think viOlet's the kind of guy that will try to get a better feel of the map early on, but coLqxc shouldn't have any difficulty with any early ling play since he's opening up with what looks to be a Reaper opening.
Yeah, this sometimes can kind of counter Reapers, but you know, the Zerglings have to be very deliberate. They have to go around the Reapers to the command center that's going to be placed on the low ground. And as long as you, as the Terran, scout with that Barracks SCV, which he's doing right now, you should be able to see this coming and prepare your Reaper accordingly.
Yeah.
What you can do is keep your SCV near and around the Zerglings that are popping out, just to make sure that you always have tabs on it. Because the worst thing that could happen, in my opinion, is the Reaper is attacking like a hatchery that's just starting to be made, and the Zerglings are just wrecking your face.
Yeah, that's like the biggest fear for the Terran. So sending the SCV scout is how you have insurance against this. And like I said, viOlet is the kind of player that goes for these types of early plays. And I only find it interesting because the only other Zerg player that often opens up with like a 13 pool is Firecake, but he just doesn't build any links. He goes straight for a queen and just uses it because I guess he hates playing versus those early Reapers.
Yeah.
So because coLqxc saw the lings, he knows they're out on the map. He would much rather just keep his Reaper at home because honestly, he has a pretty reasonable idea of like what could be coming his way. He doesn't know 100% if there was a gas taken inside of viOlet's space, but for now, with the way that Terran kind of works, it's best that he just plays a little bit close to the chest.
Yeah. Right now, I mean, coLqxc is worried about like Baneling all-ins, just speed Zerglings running around the map, that kind of stuff. That's the main thing. And he won't be able to push out with this Reaper until he gets these 2 Marines up. I mean, he could push out right now, considering, you know, he has a wall off. It's all pretty good, and that's what he's doing right now. What he wants to do right now is confirm whether or not his opponent is doing an all-in, or it's just regular macro play. He gets up here. As soon as you see the creep tumor and the extra queen down there on the bottom, you're not worried at all.
Yeah, so coLqxc has a good idea. He knows that there was no gas taken at the start of this game, which means there can't be a Baneling nest, there can't be Zergling speed even remotely close to being on the way. So he should be expecting some sort of either fast lair or fast roach play. And if coLqxc has done his homework, which he's not the kind of guy that really strikes me as someone who wouldn't, he should know that viOlet likes a lot of these types of strategies and that he should be prepared for something roach related later on. That Reaper though,
Very scary. Yeah, I mean, viOlet is that type of person that likes to take, like, slightly uneconomic builds in favor of surprising your opponent a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Like, in favor of doing these things that force your opponent to tech switch out of what they really want to do. And I feel like, you know, going roaches this game makes a lot of sense considering the opening. He has a great economy despite going for a spawning pool first. And it's because of the initial stages where he's just been able to drone up unabated. But obviously things like this help coLqxc out so much.
That's actually very nice to be able to catch that Overlord out there. Perhaps it was trying to just spot the Reaper in the beginning of the game so he could dodge it, and I think that cost him it. Now the lair is on the way for viOlet, the Roach Horn, and the Evolution Chamber, without having yet placed that third base. coLqxc, if he pokes up the ramp with his Hellions and he sees, okay, sees that Evolution Chamber, especially if he can see the Roach Horn, he'll know what's going on. He wants to get aggressive right now. He's moving in with quite a few of these Marines and these Hellbats. Without a Spine Crawler, he could actually, like, this is not the type of push that's supposed to win you games, but this could do critical damage to viOlet very early on.
Especially, like, this type of build where you don't have a lot of minerals since you're trying to invest it all into drones. You don't have that many queens.
Yeah, he's actually got more Hellions rallied across the map, and this could actually make things very, very complicated. He doesn't really have any good way of dealing with the Hellbats because there's no Spine, no Baneling Nest, and the Roaches aren't out yet. He's got 5 being built, but he loses a ton of links. He loses his queens, which shuts down his potential creep spread later on. He could lose this next queen, which would deny his ability to get injects. And if he gets right on top of these larvae as the Roaches pop, he could even try to kill those, but at this point, he's just denying, mining off the natural, which is more than enough, and he kills that queen.
Roaches will pop out just in the nick of time, but he still has a while to go before he actually cleans out these Hellbats. Additional Roaches will show up from the main base. It looks really good for coLqxc, though. That's a lot of lost mining time. It's a lot of indirect damage. 4 queens killed, 20 Zerglings killed. I mean, this is a lot of stuff from the Zerg. And the thing about Zerg is you always have to remake those Zerglings or remake the attacking or defending units. And when that happens, you are actually at an opportunity cost for drones. a big problem for your economy.
Yeah, and coLqxc can't really be too upset by all this. He delayed his third command center in order to make this happen, but if you look at what he gained out of it, as a Terran player, you're always happy to be on the same number of bases as the Zerg opponent. The Zerg wants to be ahead on bases, so this third hatchery starts after the third command center. coLqxc will have 3 orbitals by the time viOlet has 3 saturated bases if he gets up that fast, and viOlet still now has to end up worrying about this Banshee that's going to be coming across map. He's got a second Banshee in production, he's starting up stim and getting cloak, but coLqxc recognizes that a build like this won't give viOlet access to fast Mutalisks, and he's just playing straight up bio because he feels comfortable against this style.
Yeah, I think everything that coLqxc's been doing, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, he's staying safe against the Roach all-ins even with this Cloak Banshee, and he's able to put pressure on with Cloak. So everything, I think, is coming together for coLqxc. It looks like his preparation has been beautiful for the type of style and build that he knows his opponent likes to do, but this could offer a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, this Roach shove is, he's doing something with the units that he built from the beginning of the game, but coLqxc building 2 Marauders in that bunker, I think if he had run them in the bunker earlier, maybe he wouldn't need to lose as many workers, but he still hasn't lost a crazy amount. The Banshee shows up, and at the same time, he's still killed quite a few drones across the map, and viOlet's going to lose even more of his Roaches over here. He still needs to be very, very careful because that drop phase of the game, once stim finishes, is going to pop up. He already has the starport. He can just swap it onto a reactor and go right into medevac production.
Oh man, and you might think, viOlet is in a great position right now, but looking at the income tab, it's 44 harvesters to 39. If you add those extra mules, it actually gives the harvester lead over to coLqxc. So he's still in a really good position. However, you can't count viOlet out because we know him to be a monster. He's taking his third base. He's starting to stabilize a little bit. It doesn't mean he's ahead by any means, but now he has a tech switch. He has things that he can do to get back into the game, things that he can do to surprise his opponent.
And he's creeping this third base, so it's going to be very tricky for coLqxc. At the very least, he's going to have to wait a while since he's not yet moved a Marine over to kill that Overlord. Like, this command center is going to arrive and be like, nope, no access. The one thing for viOlet that makes me nervous is I don't believe he's yet even started to build a Baneling nest. So as this Banshee harass comes to an end and we see the transition into bio move-outs, that's where this game gets very tricky because just Mutalisks alone are going to have a really, really difficult time stopping a bio push. There's the Baneling nest, very, very late.
But most importantly, too, he's getting the Spire and the Mutas out before this third base is saturated. It makes the third base such a nice target for Zerg in this early game stage because there's not going to be turrets up in time. There's not going to be the ability to really get a lot of units there and get units in the main and the natural. So surprising his opponent right here, very advantageous for viOlet. So it gives him just these little things to get back into the game. Not that he's like dead, but he is behind.
Oh, the Mutas run straight in. The Marines immediately snap one up as those turrets finish. And at the cost of his stim, now that he has medevacs out, it's not too bad. So I really like the second turret by the Gas Geysers. When I play TvZ on this map, Zergs, they love to punish you for only being able to cover such little space with one turret.
Look at this. viOlet's still finding some openings.
And he's like, oh, that turret's to the right, huh?
Yeah.
Well, should have moved it to the left.
You don't have 3 turrets, coLqxc. Gonna punish you.
Yeah, he has to, really, with the way that this game started off. These Mutalisks, I still proffer have to do quite a bit more to really keep viOlet in a good spot. Because look at his 1-1, it's halfway done. coLqxc starting his +2 upgrades, and we all know, Terran with upgrade advantage versus Ling Bane Muta, you don't really lose straight up fights.
Yeah, I mean, normally it's if you're equal with the Zerg, you're in a good position. Actually, the Zerg is the one that normally has the upgrade advantage, and then it's like, oh, my pushes with Terran come at 1-1, come at 2-2 when I'm just getting them and I know they're equalized.
Yeah.
For him to be ahead, I mean, he's going to have a nice advantage when he hits that 3-3.
He still actually hasn't started the +2 attack, which makes me slightly nervous. But I mean, it's not like he's fallen behind yet. It just means he won't have that lead later on, or at least won't have as much of a lead.
And that's like the most annoying thing ever to happen when you're playing TvZ. Like, it could be like you don't have enough minerals or enough gas, and you're like, oh, I'll get back to that, and you just forget,
Yeah, this is really tricky because it could end up hurting him a lot later on. But let's see what happens with coLqxc's first big push. The Banelings are out. Is Baneling speed done, Greetorp?
Baneling speed, I'm not sure.
No,
actually.
it doesn't look like it. No, so without Baneling speed,
Oh, it just got started, man.
yeah, this makes it pretty easy for coLqxc to micro and split. His Marines, even on creep, will be able to move faster once stimmed than the Baneling, so it comes down to the Ling Roach production.
It's still a lot of stuff, man. Just a lot of units on the map. So much material out here. If we look at the supplies of Army, it's actually very even, but because of how Terran works, a lot of the Army supply is over by the main and the natural.
Yeah, and a good amount of it is in production as well. These Lings come up, he pushes them back, so coLqxc's not really able to make much happen. At this point, the Terran wants to be pushing the 4th base. Like, that's ideally your goal, is to kill the 4th when you make the big move out. But that even should be coming with the 2-2. But +2 armor push is it's not a thing, Retorp.
I know. I wish, man. I wish it was. But the Banelings do the same amount
of damage. It's like +2
damage.
armor finishes like 40 seconds faster, so everyone builds their builds around going for +2 Marauder pushes because you can't kill them with unupgraded Zerglings. It's like, no. It's not. That's from some sort of fantasy world we've never been to.
It'd be the life, though. It would be the life.
If the game was centered on armor timings, building armor timings, infantry armor timings, forget attack upgrades. This is old school.
Just music to my ears, Nate. That's all you're really saying. You're saying music to my ears. I love it.
Well, we didn't have any Terrans yesterday, so these are the things we need to talk about.
That's right.
He's getting Drilling Claws. He does finally start +2 attack. I think he just realized, he's like, and that probably makes coLqxc very, very sad, as he will no longer be able to get an upgrade advantage versus his opponent. That armor is still going to be ahead for some time, but it's not going to be the game winner. Well, I'd be surprised if it was.
He has given his opponent a lot of time, though, to just relax and get the right composition, because normally Zerg, if they're trading a lot in the early stages, they can't get whatever they want, which is their tech, their upgrades, and a lot of mutants. And we know we know viOlet to be very, very muta heavy in general in a lot of his ZVTs, and I feel like that's not where you want to go. You want to have those trades as much as possible with viOlet. You want to get him to trade out those Banelings for you to have better fights a little bit later on. But right now we've had a lot of inactivity. Ooh. It's going to come down to micro.
Oh, viOlet taking a fight off creep. Those mines just wrecked those Lings. They were not able to get away from the mines in time. viOlet actually lost a lot of Zerglings. He's got 48 in production. The Marine drops were shut down pretty nicely. The Changelings were key for viOlet to know that coLqxc's army was pushing, but just because you know he's there, you still don't want to fight off creep as Zerg.
That's right.
He hasn't spread in that direction really much at all, to be honest.
That is actually one thing that viOlet probably is his biggest weakness this game around. And let me tell you, this is a hard map to actually spread creep. Like, there's 4 directions that you have to spread creep, and normally it's just like 2. So it kind of makes it a little bit hard. These chokes are going to be really good for coLqxc to just poke up and down and have great Widowmine connections.
Yeah, the Banelings try to come in from the flank, but he actually has quite a few Marines already pre-positioned there, and the Widowmines will be cleaned up, but they clean up a large number of the Banelings. You know, overall, viOlet still just has so much supply out here. He's not invested so much into the mutas, which gives him a lot more Roach Bling Bane, and that actually allows him to stop this. coLqxc recognized that. He got that actually surprised he built like a safety siege tank back home, but he's also moved into Thors. I don't think the Thors will be as useful. Well, I guess viOlet's he's going in more heavy into mutas now, so I guess they will be.
Man, viOlet makes this look so easy, though. Like, it was 200-200, and then it became 140 supply against 200. Really, really excellent, I would say, execution of the overall battle, knowing exactly how many units to put on the left side and the right side.
Yeah, the mines didn't do too much for coLqxc in that last fight.
I agree. And I also think that coLqxc didn't have enough mines, too. Like, a lot of times when you're dealing with this heavy Zergling-type style, you need a lot of AoE in there, whether it be Hellbats or mines. You need something to deal with all those units.
Yeah, now we see the Mutalisks coming into that natural. This is the nightmare on this map. This is so easy to hit from the skies, and you deny that gas, you kill a few SCVs, you're forcing the Terran to come build more missile turrets there to defend it, and coLqxc's Lone Marine spots that 5th base. So coLqxc taking the 4th, he needs this if he wants to continue his efforts in replenishing his economy. Now that he's got all of his infrastructure, all of his upgrades paid for, he just wants to churn out units non-stop and go for a big push. This is where viOlet can start to get aggressive.
Yeah, and it looks like he is. I mean, he has so many options, but he's going to go for the 360 surround right now. Mutas from the top, Zergling Baiting from the left, and Roaches from the side. However, those Marines are actually doing a great job. Good splits, but there's just too many Mutas, it looks like, on the top. Still, reinforcements
the
from
reinforcement
coLqxc.
wave. Yeah, coLqxc actually handled that really, really nicely. I think it came down to the Banelings just didn't really hit a whole lot. Like, I think like viOlet, the fight that he took when he had creep there, he completely wrecked coLqxc.
Yeah.
And then both times where he tried to engage without it, he got wrecked. And now the 5th base being denied, setting both players on 4 bases. This is not where you want to be as a Zerg. viOlet has a lot of bank. It's not like his supply fell down and he's out of the game, but he's waiting to spend it on something. He's got a greater Spire coming in. He's got a lot more Lingbane. So perhaps his goal in this game is to move into Broodlord Infestor, or just, Broodlord Corruptor.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go about this, because you have to know that coLqxc is going to have that slow push over to his 4th base, and it's not going to be a great situation since, Terran can just relax. They don't have to take bad engagements knowing that it's very low economy. But he does need to kind of push it a little bit faster based on the Broodlords now. If there were no Broodlords and it was just, Zergling, Baneling, Muta, it's not a big deal. You could just slow it down. But now it forces coLqxc to do something about it.
Yeah, this is going to be really, really tricky. He does not have any infrastructure to deal with a Broodlord transition. Majority of the time, Terran players at this point in the game, you're expecting the Zerg to go Ultralisks first because all their upgrades build into it. You're expecting Ultraling Bane. You're like, okay, well, I get a couple of extra tech labs, and then I'm set. Then I can just build a lot of Marauders. And we see how many tech lab barracks coLqxc has. And the Mutas being able to get into the main are really making this just a living hell for the Terran.
Oh, yeah. And all these Mutas staying alive actually helps out so much, because Broodlord Muta isn't all that bad either, instead of like Broodlord Corruptor. It's not like you can easily go for Vikings. Wow, big surround here. coLqxc not paying attention. This Zergling Baneling force is going to clean up everything.
It's like just Marauders, but he has so many Banelings, he can actually just swarm over this whole army. The Lings especially deal well. Marauders, they attack too slow to really deal with those Zerglings. Those Zerglings can munch them down really fast. And now I'm very concerned for coLqxc, as even though he's got money in the bank, he does have to replenish his defenses at his 3rd base and his main. His production was hindered a bit. And he's still building Marines and Thors and Mines. And Mines and Marauders and Thors are not ideal versus Broodlords. Like, the Thors can be good at dealing with the Mutalisks, but I really feel like these Broodlords could put him in a tough spot. The only situation where this doesn't work out very well for viOlet, I think, is if he just has his Broodlords in the open and the Marines can run under them. You want to keep some Banelings underneath the Broodlords just to be safe.
Yeah, the only way that coLqxc can win this is if he overpowers his opponent, and really coLqxc hasn't been able to stabilize all too well. He still is at almost max, so it does help, but he still needs to get that huge amount of units, that overwhelming amount of units over his opponent. He needs that 30 supply, 40 supply lead, so he needs to be constantly harassing his opponent. He's
building 4 Marauders right now. He still does not know that there's Broodlords on the map. He never scanned the main base and saw that Hive that Spire turned into a greater Spire. And now that with the 3/3 upgrades coming in too, those Lings are still going to be good. But those upgrades also benefit the Broodlings for the Broodlords too, which we can't forget.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a scary spot for coLqxc right now.
Now
he finally sees it.
Bad time to find out.
He realizes his mines are kind of useless at this point too. There's a lot of friendly fire that can be done.
Yeah. So at this point, coLqxc can't really. It'd be very risky to try to engage this. Maybe he tries to flank it, or he just goes for a massive counter push. And from the looks of things, it's a massive counter push. He stims his whole army rushing towards that 5th base of viOlet. And while he should be able to knock that down, his 4th base is going to be rendered useless for quite some time too, because he has to sit here repairing the planetary with all his SCV. He starts 3 starports now. He's desperately rushing up to Vikings.
Zergling Baneling will come in, and no Widowmine hits were able to be successful, so it's going to be cleaned up very, very easily and very cost efficiently. The Broodlord's not even over here. coLqxc knows it's over, and he GG's out. viOlet will take game number 1. Really well played by viOlet overall. I mean, we were talking about that one single push that coLqxc had to do, and what viOlet did was said, I'm going to keep counterattacking you and just buy time. With that time, I'm going to get my Broodlords
and not having +2 attack really slowed down his potential to make a big push, because you're playing against equally upgraded Roaches, and, the Roaches may not be like the highest DPS army, especially against stimmed bio with medevac support, but they soak up a lot of damage.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're Zergling Baneling, or excuse me, if your Marine Marauder are attacking the Roaches, what's attacking the Banelings, right?
Yeah.
Normally it's, I kill the Zerglings really fast, and then the Banelings are the next prioritized target, because you're A-moving. You're not single clicking. Yeah. So the Roaches actually being there helps out the Banelings a lot more than people think.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes playing versus viOlet a little bit on the trickier side, because, the standard for Zergs against Terran is, play Zergling, Baneling, Mutalisk against Marine, Marauder, Medevac, Mine, and Thor's mixed in later on. But going for the Roaches just adds an extra bit of tankiness and allows him to max out much faster than than you would get in a normal game, because he also only built like 7 mutas at the start. It wasn't until after the first maxed engagement that he actually went into heavy mutalist production. And because of that, QXC didn't have a lot of missile turrets either.
And also QXC has just been playing as if viOlet's any other player. But viOlet has a very unique style in the early game stage. If you look, he doesn't make a lot of banelings to start out with.
No, I mean, he almost took a serious critical amount of damage just from that Hellbat Marine push.
A lot of times, if you just incorporate Hellbats into that mid-game stage and then micro the banelings, rather than going the Widow Mines, it's a lot more effective against viOlet in the past games that we've seen at doing significant damage against him, rather than relying on Widow Mines, has a lot of RNG, and of course we've seen viOlet just micro Widow Mines very, very well this game.
Yeah.
Really bad too. But,
like viOlet took some Zergling losses. Like his fights off creep were still pretty abysmal, but once you had the Broodlords out, like you're creating an army that the Terran can't really directly engage, because the Broodlings will push you away once they start to unload. But if you try to rush under them before the Broodlings come out, then there's Banelings, and your Marines are not so good against those.
I mean, if you look at the last 3 fights, really the big 3 fights that we saw with viOlet, he rendered the Widow Mines useless. But the first 5. They did not work out.
No.
They did not work out at all.
No. That's the big thing about TvZ. The next map is going to be Cactus Valley. Terran versus Zerg on this map.
How do you feel?
Honestly, this is a really good map for someone that likes to be aggressive like viOlet on the third base. Like, on Echo, you can break down those rocks and seal your third base off a bit. There's like that one ramp that really goes in there if you don't have the rocks destroyed, and that's not too big of a deal. But on Cactus Valley, your third base has a huge amount of area. Like, there's 2 potential thirds you can take, but both of them have such wide angles. Yeah. You need 8 or 9 depots to wall it off, and nobody does that except Flash and in weird scenarios. And then you get Baneling busted and you lose, you can't build any units for forever.
Only the god can do it.
Yeah. Flash is the only guy that I've seen wall off merry-go-round. He's like, oh, this top third base is really open. Let's just wall the whole thing. That's a bit weird. But as you guys can see, we're loaded into map number 2. QXC asking for a pause, so hopefully everything is resolved reasonably quickly.
One thing, Mech is definitely harder on this map. I don't know if we're going to see it, but I think, that you brought it up in the beginning phase. I think Mech is something that we do need to talk about. Overall, though, I feel like Mech is very polarized, where it's either you're going to be super successful because of how the bases are structured. They're all cluster expansions. Do you know what I mean by that? It's 4 in the top left, 4 in the top right, 4 in the bottom left, 4 in the bottom right. It always works like that, pretty much.
Well, Deadwing is the epitome of that type of map style. That's the best example that we could give you.
And I feel like if you're going something like Mech that's really sturdy and stuff like that, your pushes are going to be pretty strong. If you clear out one side or one corner of the map, you clear out every single expansion there. So you could play this style where you just stay on 4 base and just push to deny rather than push to kill, And that's pretty good.
And starve the other guy out by having a more cost-effective army. I think on Cactus Valley, it's really risky because I've played a couple pretty good mech TvZs on this map, but in this map in particular, you run into this weird issue because it's so big. If you push across, if the spawns are crossed, then it gets really weird because the Zerg can build buildings, of course, all the corners of the map, but then base trades are really hard to deal with. Yeah, I had a game where I went and killed all the Zerg stuff. I'm like, okay, go home. And then I can't see the roaches and mutas killing everything. I'm like, you can't beat my army, but it's too slow. And then you just lose everything.
I know what you mean.
It's painful, man.
That's brutal.
It's painful. But I think for this map, that makes it a bio map in my eyes. I like playing bio on Cactus Valley because you can always throw on the bunker, even if the base is exposed. The Zerg still has to invest. You can put a couple depots around just the bunker, but it's still not a bad map for run by. Violet's the kind of guy that likes to do that thing where you take a couple lings outside and you just make 5 Banes and just roll them into the mineral line.
Yeah, that's super annoying, obviously. And because of every expansion that's over here, it's very easy to do something like that. I don't know. I'm very torn. I think Mech is hard on this map, but it can be done based on the economy layouts. If you play it Flash style.
Yeah, wow.
If you play perfect. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's so many different ways that people like to do it. So it basically seems like QXC is having a bit of a keyboard issue. We'll wait just a little bit. If it's something that needs more time, we might go to a break. Yeah. But otherwise, it was pretty funny when he first paused the game. It was a bunch of numbers with his letters, and I get kind of discerned. I'm like, oh, it looks like he's trying to type keyboard isn't working or something like that. I'm like, okay, well, I don't think I don't think that's something that you'd probably want to end up playing with. So, all right, looks like he's gonna need to restart his PC or something of
No, he
that
said
sort.
he's just gonna remake right
He's
now.
ready to remake.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, he probably couldn't build his first worker because of that, huh? Oh yeah, he had 8 p.m.
8
Okay.
p.m.
I guess his keyboard really wasn't working, guys. So we're gonna remake this game. Yeah. Well,
It happens.
it happens.
You just got to shrug it off. I mean,
sometimes your keyboard just doesn't work.
I would say it would slightly affect people that are new to and unexperienced in like the high level competition in terms of just like how well you're able to play. But against with viOlet and QXC, it's fine.
QXC, his history with keyboards.
Are you saying he's tilty?
No. I'm just saying.
He's turned a new leaf, man.
I'm just saying that if he wins the match, I also want an interview with his keyboard. That's all. Just wanna know what happens after every game.
Day 3. It's a good day today.
Did the keyboard really just stop randomly working, or it's like day 4? It's like QXC didn't build Cyclones today.
Or
QXC lost a lot
1.
of games today.
Yeah.
Then it's like so things get scary.
Maybe the keyboard problems from game 1. You never know.
What about Zerg? What does viOlet do on this map? You have no ramp going into the natural, so a frontal assault is much easier, I think, than on Echo.
I think you play that complete, like you were talking about, just base trade type style. You do play a base trade / like always counterattacking style because we were talking about the 4th and 3rd bases being very open.
Yeah.
Hard to get a 5th base for Terran in general. Like it always has to be a planetary fortress, and it always has to be so far away. You could just do Baneling crashes against that and just play really, really heavy 4-5 base.
On this map in particular, like you have the choice of your 3rd, and both of them are kind of exposed, and it's like okay, then you take the other one as the 4th later. But a 5th base, you are at least halfway across the map to get a 5th. Because this is Cactus Valley is unique in that this is one of the maps where there are no expansions in the center. All of the expansions in this map are around the edge. Like that's pretty much it. So you're not going to be able to take a base that's central between any of your other expansions. To me, that's what makes Cactus Valley one of the most difficult maps to play on.
Yeah, I agree, and especially for Terran, I would say, just because Zerg has.
If you creep shed, you can get around your bases faster.
Yeah.
Terran, especially if you play mech, it's all about that positioning. So if you can't cover multiple bases with one defense, like you can for your first 3, the 3rd it gets tricky, but the 4th and 5th, like.
The way I see it with these really far expansions, the more you're aggressive, the easier it is for you to take the expansions.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you have tempo control, you're able to be aggressive. The defender is. It takes a lot just to be able to kill a 5th base or kill a 6th base because you're running into a lot of, I would say, overlords all around the map, even Zergling, Baneling, Muta all around the map. It gets to be a very big hassle. So a lot of times I feel like the aggressor is going to be the much better position on this map in particular. It gets you your 5th base. You're able to keep it up. You're able to just have that continued aggression until the 25-minute mark.
Man, that's a really good point, and I think that fits very well into the style of our red Zerg here in the bottom left. We've got cross spawns in this position. The red Zerg from Team NVUS, he is viOlet.
And over in the top right-hand corner as the blue Terran. Forward control Terran, it is QXC.
QXC, I think he's... he's someone that follows a lot of stuff. I think QXC actually also recently, he put out today, it was like he made a blog about his thoughts on the changes and whatnot happening in Legacy of the Void as the beta continues to progress forward. And he's someone that, he said he's a thinker. On this map, he's thinking fast expand. It's a huge map. It's cross spawns. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Me too. I mean, just nice to get your economic openings out there.
Okay.
Also, how likely is it that your opponent opens up pool first 2 games in a row?
Yeah, that's also a really good point.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to how greedy QXC might end up being in this game, or viOlet. One thing that's very weird about this map, compared to any other, is the entrance to your natural looks deceivingly big. You can block that with 2 depots in a bunker.
Yeah.
This is the only natural ramp that I can recall in StarCraft, like the one leading out of the natural. Like this ramp, as big as it looks, like this is the only natural exit that I can think of in recent times in StarCraft 2 that you can block with 2 depots in a bunker. Like most ramps these days, it's like you need 3 in a bunker for a map like Catalina, or or Coda at times if you don't break down the rocks. And other than that, it's like 4 depots in a bunker usually.
I don't even know another map that would
Yeah,
be
I can't think of any other maps that are just 2 depots with the bunker.
Yeah, maybe
So.
like there's only one where it's like, you know, Vani Research Station, if you want to consider it that. But
but that's
it's,
like you're
weird.
really reaching if you have to be like, it's technically your main ramp, so do you really call it that? So basically, it's really easy to be defensive on this map as a Terran player, and that makes, I imagine it's something that will cause us to see Greedy play on this map, especially since it's so big throughout the course of this WCS season, and potentially if it lives on into any future ones. But it's going to go straight into a factory, and viOlet, no crazy fast third base. I'm more interested in what he's going to do, because I feel like coLqxc is just going to play standard straight up again.
Yeah, I think so too. coLqxc has much better win conditions in close or cross positions than close positions on this map. You can deny fifth bases, as we were talking about, and just play the War of Attrition, and go from there, since Zerg generally needs more minerals and gas than Terran when they're fighting in this matchup. So you can easily, you know, have very clear push distances. Okay, I push to the center, and then I push to fifth base either on the south side or the northwest side, or you can, well, just go for the fourth bases, I guess. Kill fourth bases if you have advantages, but you know, it's really obvious what you can do with Terran, whereas Zerg, it's not so clear, I would say. Yeah, you're trying to deny fourth bases and fifth bases, but if Terran is just turtling up, it's very easy for them to stabilize in general. And then where do you go? What's your win condition? It has to be like some sort of economic or, you know, like very overt material advantage.
Yeah, I'm thinking on this map that if the game ends up going long, it has to be about the fifth bases. Like,
Yeah.
the 2 potential thirds are very close to your natural expansion. In fact, the ramp from the natural can cover both of them. But either potential fifth base that coLqxc can take is either in the top center or the bottom right. And this, if you take this base and you have your army there, then your bottom right fourth base is super exposed, or if it was your third. So this is a map where you really need to be active out on the map if you want to be able to safely take those expansions. And coLqxc is going to be aggressive this game again. He's opening up with a medevac, that fast armor. He's just going to do a quick Marine Hellbat push once again.
I think he knows something about his opponent with this armor, this Hellbat play, because I think he knows, okay, you know, viOlet doesn't really like to go very, very quick roaches. He likes to go roaches in the mid-game stage, but, you know, there might be some timing that I could hit at like 7-8 minutes where he's going to be very, very vulnerable.
You got the Overlord again, too.
Helps super much.
He picked off an Overlord at the start of the last game as well. One of the nice things about just going for so many Marines this early on, usually if you rush straight to a tech lab for stim, you don't end up with enough Marines to kill an Overlord that would come in to scout like this. But now he's got the Hellions in position. The medevac can speed boost over and bring the Marines. And he's even going to follow this up straight into Cloak Banshee. Really, really aggressive build out of coLqxc.
Definitely not what I expected. Now he scans the roaches, he sees them pop out. What do you do here if you're coLqxc? I'm not really sure, because do you just forfeit? Because it is scary to see roaches out at this point in time.
I think the idea is try to pull him out of position so that you can run the Hellions by or drop the Marines. Like I don't know if a concerted attack together will work, but he can also do this. Like the denial on the third should be pretty easy. This will force the roaches to move, and I'm more surprised he's actually just going to engage him head on here. Yeah, turning into Hellbats here seems like a very interesting choice, but he's pulled the units out, and now he's got the Marines to support here too. He's actually killed a couple Overlords during all this as well.
Yeah, he's just going to kill the Overlord and get out. He realizes like this is I
mean, he traded like 5 Hellions for what? The 2 Overlords, you could argue, that he grabbed on the way here?
Yeah.
But just the Marine drop alone would have done that. He didn't really get what he was looking for.
No, 4 Overlords. Okay. It's not bad, but, I mean, it's nowhere near the type of damage that he wanted to do.
Yeah, this isn't like the kill 4 Overlord push, you know what I mean? This is the kill a lot of Queens, drones.
Yeah.
That's the push it is. I don't know of any anti-4 Overlord pushes.
Man, you always gotta be careful of the 4 Overlord push, man. Alright, well, this isn't looking good for coLqxc, as his bunker looks like it's going to be going down pretty fast here.
And this is where that roach counter is so good, because he didn't take any damage. Like viOlet's just cruising along behind this. The medevac comes back, but these roaches had that carapace upgrade, and since coLqxc had no engineering bays, his Marines are actually having a really hard time killing these roaches. You know, it goes from like 31 hits for a Marine to kill a roach up to 39 if they have that +1. They are so hard to kill.
That is insane. I never calculated that. Thank you, Nate.
I like roach math. I hate roaches so much. I had to learn about my enemy.
39 shots. That's incredible.
It also depends based on
no.
regeneration. He cancels stim too. He could get the reactors. It's like, oh, can I try to kill Depot and get your army? Maybe, but if I kill your add-ons, I don't think you're going to win the game either.
That's like super game ending. Because now stim doesn't finish for another, 200 seconds.
Yeah, he hasn't even started another tech lab for you. What he's got to do is switch on to the starport. When he lost his reactor, his production has been crippled. And this is not one of those situations where it's like, oh, it's okay that coLqxc lost some SCVs because he has mules. No, he's at half the workers of his opponent now.
Yeah, minus 22 SCVs. That's incredible, man. I mean, the build order... On paper, you would think that coLqxc has a better build order just because he has, the Banshees popping out. He has the Marauders really quickly. He has the Marines pressuring his opponent. But no, it just comes down to the fact that coLqxc is not able to be in position fast enough, not able to get the material out fast enough, and also viOlet just has too much stuff out on the field. And now killing this medevac would be huge.
Yeah, at this point, coLqxc needs every little bit. That's so nice that he's able to just swing in and grab that and get away with the Mutalisks. Like these Banshees, so cool, you got Banshees, but there's a Spore Crawler and Queens with enough energy to transfuse each other, so you can't even suicide to try to grab one Queen. You would lose both Banshees without killing anything.
Yeah, and the tough part about the Banshees is that it's cross position. It takes an extra like 10-15 seconds to actually get to your opponent's base. That's 10-15 seconds that you wish you were killing drones, man. You would be able to kill so many more drones. So because the Banshees come so much later, of course the Roaches made them come so much later. You have just like this compilation or...
no, he finds them too. Oh boy.
Does he have Cloak?
I'm getting the impression that he doesn't.
No.
That's mightily unfortunate as... This is not a composition that's based around its anti-air strength, since he's been mostly pushing heavy Roach, Ling, Bane. And one thing that I would also say gives a huge edge here is that this is the type of army that you can kill a Terran player with in the mid-game, because the Terran player doesn't have that big swell of units to deal with those heavily upgraded Roaches.
Very true.
I'm very concerned about this. I don't know how coLqxc intends to get a third base. I don't know how he could. Does he even have? He has to have a third command center. Yeah, he's trying to land it, but
he has to turn it off for a while, man.
Yeah, good luck, coLqxc. These Lings surround the Marauders and Marines outside the base. He tries to lift them up, but the Mutas barely missing that one. But he's like, okay, yeah, hide behind your wall. Okay, you're not getting to third base. It's not happening, buddy.
And it's funny because viOlet can't actually have that super killing blow unless he makes more Banelings. He can very easily make more Banelings, but look what he's doing. Instead, trying to invest in a better harassing tool, which is the Muta. Right? He doesn't want to go for that kill blow. He's being conservative, trying to just get more ahead rather than trying to win the game and potentially be in a spot where, coLqxc cleans everything up and he's in a bad position.
Yeah, if he trades his army away, then coLqxc has the option to pick up his units and his medevacs and go for counterattacks while he takes the third. But this style really makes it tricky because he's got Overlord to spot everything. It's like, yeah, you got double drop. Okay, well, I could try to go catch it. It seems like he still wants to split some units off to the third base, which I do like because he should recognize that reduces the size of coLqxc's standing army. And yeah, the mines aren't in position there, so these Roaches get ready to catch anything that would drop out, and the Mutas are going to be there to hit these medevacs.
So brutal. I mean, look at the supplies, 190 to 134. I mean, coLqxc is just so far behind economically because, he's been able to, all
these Lings run in too. They're in a weird spot.
I like the SimCity, man.
Yeah, the SimCity's good, but the reactors are still, I think, as good targets as SCVs are. If he kills all three reactors, he's actually just cut the production straight in half. Like coLqxc's lost a tremendous amount of unit production once again, because now these barracks can't even build one Marine at a time because they have to build reactors again.
And now viOlet is moving around to the third base, going to try to put pressure there. Banelings will finally be made. He had 4 Banelings for like the longest time. Now finally going to try to put some game-ending damage on as he wraps around with the Mutas, trying to kind of take all of the army out of position, put it in the natural, and then of course strike at the third base meanwhile.
Yeah, the Mutalisks come in. He's going to hit the natural at the same time, rocking away at this third base. And GG is called. viOlet takes a 2-0 lead here in this best of 5 at the World Championship Series Challenger. I got to say, I was expecting a closer start to the series. I was looking at this starting off with like a 1-1. I really liked coLqxc's position when he was like up in supply for a short bit. Really, for me, I thought game 1 was his until he didn't scout the Broodlord transition. But game 2, Violent was just, yeah, and he just completely steered that in his direction.
It came down to the openings a lot. Well,
yeah, well,
all of that game.
The thing is, though, like, he still managed to make it work when you compared it to the last game. Because in the first game, coLqxc made that push. He got a lot more done, and he didn't have the medevac. So his push, maybe it hit a little bit faster.
Yep.
But this game, the medevac should give it that extra strength. But Violet defended it with close to the same amount of units. And
faster roaches.
Yeah, the faster roaches just made it so easy for him.
And I do want to stress, you said it, that coLqxc and Violent, it seems like they should have been a little bit closer. I know a lot of people are just like, Violet's going to win. But last time they met up with each other, it was at San Jose IEM, and coLqxc only lost by 2-3, so it really could have gone either way.
Yeah, most of the time when I think about these two players in matches that I've seen of them, the games are usually very close. The scores at the end results are usually very close. I'd be very surprised, actually, if Violet 3-0s coLqxc. I'm expecting coLqxc to change it up in some way for the next map, but now I'm a bit nervous for him.
Yeah, I mean, you're on match point at this point. Just not a great position to be in against Violent. Violent is capable of doing all these different all-ins as well that we haven't mentioned. So it's like coLqxc needs to be on his extra tippy toes with everything, needs to be scouting for everything, because honestly, Violent is capable of 6-pooling this next game.
He's the kind of guy that could.
Yeah, I mean, if you command center first, you're dead. The game's over. You know, there's nothing that you can do. So.
Violet is crazy, and I'm also very interested to know what the next map is going to be in this series as we get things underway. They're already doing the vetoes for the next series that we were so hyped about.
I know. I'm really looking forward to it, man.
Yeah,
I can.
This is the games. The games today, I think, not necessarily like, oh, the games are going to be better than yesterday's, but the matchups to me are much less one-sided.
Yes.
And I guess I might be like eating my hat here on that one, where I'm like, okay, I thought this was going to be a 3-2 no matter who won, but Violet could 3-0. And Vonnie Research Station, like, if coLqxc's got a mech build, this is the map to use it.
That's right. I mean, Vonnie Research Station, we've seen it before. You just get your command center, you turtle up. You get your other command center, you turtle up. And then you push out knowing that, hey, swarm hosts are weaker. I know you're probably going to be going Roach, Hydra, Viper. In that case, I know exactly what to get. Get some Ravens in my army, get some Vikings in my army. We'll be able to deal with that air and just make sure you have good position and win.
Yeah. I think that's the most important thing for coLqxc, is that he needs to go for a strategy that will guarantee the best chance of success. No gambling. Like, I'd like to see a 3 command center Banshee build. I understand the 2-base play if he's concerned about Violet being aggressive on 2 bases, and he's done a lot of these Roach pushes, but despite him delaying his 3rd command center so much in map 2, he still took a lot of damage from the Roaches, so he really needs to switch things up. Spawning in the bottom position of Vonnie Research Station, we have that red Zerg, 1 map away from Premier League. He is Violet.
And over in the top middle position as the blue Terran, the Bandana Terran. Bandana Terran, excuse me.
Banana Terran.
It is coLqxc.
Banana?
Bandana. It's not banana.
He told me.
It could be banana.
He told me once he was like, he had this thing where he was all about being the Tiger Terran. It was really weird.
Tiger Terran.
Yeah.
He has very, very vocal opinions about a lot of things, I found out.
Yeah, he cares about what his trending nicknames are. I remember when coLqxc was actually here last year, casting some WCS with Roddy and I, and the Koreans were like, they kept asking him to come look at their PCs, and they would just have like the videos up of him from the Heart of the Swarm show matches.
Oh,
like
really?
With because like the thing with the keyboard all happened. Like, he played a game against one of the other players in this Challenger match today. He was playing versus Puck.
Oh,
that was the game. I casted that game. It was like an online Heart of the Swarm beta match, and he was it was like a Void Ray push when like the Void Rays first got that prismatic alignment ability. It was like, oh my god, how do you stop this? Bunkers seriously. Don't do anything.
Because there's like 3 bunkers and a turret against like an all-in.
Yeah.
He was like, oh yeah, coLqxc has this easy.
Puck was one of the first players to adopt the Heart of the Swarm version of the Maximus Black build. You know, the 3-gate Void Ray all-in. Except of course you had the Oracle to supplement it, which changed everything.
You know what they say, bro? It ain't easy being cheesy.
That's true. That's true. Well, Violet seems to be cruising along just fine, though, man. He's been so aggressive in this series, and he's opened up pool first again just to be safe, I have to imagine, because you can wall off your natural so easily.
Yeah.
coLqxc's already walled off, so Lings won't work, but that fast Queen means that even if this was an 11 Barracks Reaper, he would still be very safe. And coLqxc, by building this second depot before his command center, is showing that he intends to build more than one Reaper, or at least to me, that's what it does.
Yep. Second Reaper is going down. You're absolutely right, Nate. And I like this from coLqxc. I mean, we were talking about very safe standard openings that you guarantee that you don't die. This is going to be one of those things.
Yeah.
You're punishing your opponent in case they're going for like a gasless expansion. You could be harassing all day or a day.
Yeah, that was one of the core things. Like when I spent a lot of time in Europe and I like talked to Muslim about openings in Terran versus Zerg and whatnot, you know, players like viOlet who do those aggressive roach builds, if you're going for that, you're delaying your gas. So Reapers are actually just really, really good. Like a 2 or 3 Reaper opening, because we see players like Bunny use it as well at the highest level. Most Korean players open with multiple Reapers. But if your opponent tries to go for builds that are a little bit unusual, you can usually punish it in some way with Reapers, because if you don't have the Zergling speed, you can deal a lot of damage. If they do have fast Zergling speed, you scout it in time to get a defense up, and anything else, the Reapers can generally just stay there all day if there's no speed.
Yeah, and deny third bases. It really limits your range so much as Zerg for the mid-game stage. And it's funny that it's like, oh, 2 Reapers, a Reaper that I made, 4 minutes into the game affects like the 8-minute mark or 9-minute mark. But it really does. It changes the landscape of how Zerg can really play out the match. Yeah. And now that he's gotten this mass Reapers, he can't go a mass amount of Zerglings. He can't go really a quick third, because those Reapers are just going to block it, kill the drones.
He doesn't even have Zergling speed on the way, so he's choosing to allow himself to be delayed. coLqxc is going to do, and I love this, Bunny does this actually quite a bit. He built the reactor in the factory, he swapped to build Hellions, but then after he moved the barracks, he starts to build a 3rd Reaper. He still wants to get up to 3 Reapers just to have those Reapers able to tank for him. And he's going to send one to scout as well. So he sees that lair in the natural. coLqxc knows everything that's going on in this game. And he even sees like this Zergling speed. I don't even know if Violet's going to keep that, but for the purposes of this match, the speed might not be all that bad, since Hellion Reaper will be delaying his 3rd for quite some time.
Ordinarily, whenever you see something like this as Terran, you're thinking Hellbats. Hellbats immediately, because I want him to be not droning. I want him to be defending against...
Most Zergs that do styles that open like this are going into mutas, but we know that Violent doesn't like to do that. It's always roaches for him, or at least it's always been roaches in this series and in a lot of games that I've seen of his.
And he is. He's going for that roach. He started at the perfect time to get the Glio Reconstitution as soon as it finishes up. So we'll see if coLqxc is going to be mindful of that, because, if you're playing ladder, I think 9 times out of 10, you're facing up against mutas in this spot. But he sees the double Evo, he sees one of the evolution chambers working.
Yeah, this isn't something that, I'd say that's a really good point, because this isn't something that as a Terran that I almost ever see. It's almost always those mutas. I think at the same time he had that Reaper run in and check again while the Hellions were pushing the front, but there wasn't really too much for him to see, since the Roachborn and evolution chamber were already at the ramp. And this lack of a 3rd base, like coLqxc jumps up, kills the drone. It's like, yeah, well, hatcheries are hard to cancel, sure, but if you can't get the drone there, it doesn't really matter.
And he might be able to get rid of... No, he's not going to be able to get rid of the queens.
I mean, the high health queen doesn't have much energy, but it comes and blocks this again. It's just like, I'm coLqxc, I'm going to be really annoying. And I love that coLqxc actually already switched off. He's not doing like a big Hellion play. In fact, I think he only built 4, but the purpose of this was just for him to be able to go into marine production faster. He even delayed his engineering base just because he knows that if he has a few extra bio units and maybe a bunker, this roach counterattack that's sure to come really shouldn't be able to do a lot.
There it is. He sees the roaches most of all. That's so incredibly important. Now he knows to start making marauders, because marines, you said it best, take way too long to kill roaches, man.
Yeah. It takes a lot of extra time, especially since it's going to be that +1 carapace roach push. And this was something that the first time I saw this must have been 2013 WCS America Season 1. Revival used this against both Neeb and Polt to a pretty reasonable degree of success, actually, on smaller maps, though, like Habitation Station. For a series like this, I mean, this is a long map. I'm more surprised that coLqxc is actually stepping out onto the map. I guess he just wants to get the Overlord, but you gotta wait for those medevacs before those roaches become a pain in your side.
He can do so because he had spotters, positional spotters, just to check. Actually, these roaches just cleaned up the Hellion that was watching for that. So now he just pokes out. He's like, oh, okay, my opponent's coming. Let me just back up. There's a supply lead, but of course we know roaches are very bloated in supply, so you got to be careful about that. But still,
I like that. I like that use of bloated to describe roaches. Usually we're just like they're supply inefficient, but it's true. They really inflate your numbers, man.
And it's a big problem a lot of the times because that's why you can't mass roaches for the whole game. You know, a lot of times the 200 army.
This isn't Wings of Liberty beta. You can't build 100 roaches. It doesn't work like that.
Exactly, bro. And I like this just poking out here now with the medevac. I think this is the best way to deal with roaches.
I love that viOlet brought another Overlord, by the way, to block this again.
Oh, man.
But coLqxc, he's on top of it. He's on top of it.
He knows too well, man.
So, once again, I really like coLqxc's position in this game. All things considered, viOlet did get the third base eventually. It's much later. coLqxc hasn't actually planted on his third, so that third orbital that he has, he's actually going to be running low on resources in his main potentially soon, depending on where he's been dropping his mules. Since the third orbital is nice, but that extra mule does mean you're going to mine out the bases that you have much faster. So viOlet's trying to choke him out just a little bit here.
Yeah, as long as he can, it's going to be very advantageous to just sit there. Or excuse me, yeah, sit there with the roaches. It looks like viOlet is going to intercept this drop pretty easily over here. Not much damage should be done. Although 1-1 is finished, so these Zerglings won't be able to do all that much. Yeah,
the Zerglings don't have that attack upgrade yet. With the medevac's healing, these units are actually quite difficult to kill. He's like waiting. He's very close to that +1 attack, but it's not ready yet.
And Vani Research Station is a nightmare if you're in this position, being the defender as the roaching Zerg.
Yeah,
killing the Spire would have been nice.
Yeah, because you can just jump around so much. Those medevacs right across the gap from the gold to that natural expansion. And coLqxc has finally planted down his third base. Starts to put quite a few depots as he does hit a little bit of a supply block snag. But he's got his 2-2 on the way. Very, very important. Maybe he goes for that vehicle armor as well. And he's already building turrets blindly because he saw this. Well, I guess he didn't see mutas yet, but he saw the Spire. And I actually like that because of that viOlet. I don't believe he's even built any Mutalisks yet. Kind
of crazy. He's just going to go with this.
Hey, he's like, you saw my Spire. Well, I guess I don't really need to build mutas. You're going to build turrets anyway, right?
Yeah. I mean, he knows. I think he invested too much into roaches for him to go into like a heavy mutas, but we've seen it before. We've seen just mutas being so good, so you know you need to go those to track down those medevacs that are flying all over the place. But I think what we're going to see is just a huge crash with 4 bases from viOlet. He's going to go Roach Zergling Baneling for most of this game until he can tech up to Hive and try to just get an material advantage on his opponent.
I think that makes a lot of sense. coLqxc was getting postured for some sort of push, but by doing what viOlet has been in the last couple of games, is just these big, massive units at, you know, typically unusual times, rather than using mutas to buy time. He's actually pumped out quite a few Corruptors. Just notice that. So he's going for the dark style, where those medevacs are guaranteed to die if you take a fight, because the AI for the Corruptors can only target them.
I actually talked about this a lot. I really like dark style. It's very unique, but one thing about dark style is it doesn't have killing blows as well as mutas do, right?
Yeah, because if you camp the production with mutas, the game's usually over.
Exactly. If I'm able to kill command centers, the game's over. You can't do that with Heart of the Swarm Corruptors.
Yeah.
And what you can do with that as Terran is just slow the game down. Get very, very heavy Widowmine counts. Get very heavy Thor counts. And just be able to take very, very advantageous engagements. But having a high bio count I don't think is necessarily the best way. But this drop is going to help out so much, that's for sure.
Yeah, the nice thing about this is that he can't just run something like Mutalisks back. He has to bring the ground units, so the only thing that can deal with this. And he's going to snipe the lair. This is really important. Oftentimes that transition out of this Corruptor play is into late game Broodlords, but I mean, these medevacs still need to get away.
And I think he might be able to get out of here with like at least 2.
Yeah, it's looking like, I mean, he tagged him with the corruption ability. The units that are dropped on the ground are all going to die. All the medevacs, they turned around for a second. He's actually going to get all of them, those corruptors.
4th base, though, is under attack, and he's just going to snipe it. And
oh, the tanks aren't siege, though. He gets us around. Does he target the Banelings? No, they're too close.
That might be way too many units to actually have lost. We'll see right now.
Yeah, I'm really worried that viOlet could just counterattack. Look at the production time. He's got a bunch more lings in the way without the lair. He can't really be thinking about the long game at this point. coLqxc needs to go full defensive mode.
We'll see if he's going to be able to stop this. Wow, 2 full medevacs.
No.
1 full medevac goes down.
Save our ship.
And this Marine, well, they're able to clean up pretty well, but I don't know if he's going to be able to kill these roaches.
There's still so many roaches on top of this, and the Corruptors can even bait out, they can try to bait out the mine shots. Most of the mine shots actually hit the ground forces, but that rally, he's like building a planetary at the front of his army. He's like, no, that's not really going to cut it. He's chasing you back into the main. The third base is not mining anymore for QXC.
Oh, God.
Tank's going down, and viOlet looking like he's going to take it, the 3-0.
3-0. Wow. Incredible.
Really
I mean,
impressive.
It was just that one fight that he had to stop. If QXC was able to like throw up like, I don't know, 4 bunkers, building armor.
Yeah, if he was, like, if those medevacs immediately boosted away, because they turned, like, a couple of the ones that at first turned around to heal for a second, it's like, yeah, you sniped the 4th, but you lost everything for it. And as nice as it is to be able to do that, you know, maybe if he didn't build a 4th command center himself and he actually just had, like, a massive army waiting, then I can see where that works. But he lost so much to be aggressive, sniping both bases. Like, of course, viOlet's only real option was to go for that counter push. Because I think if viOlet doesn't go for the counter attack, then he's dead in the water. So QXC has to think in the back of his mind, he's like, what have I just done to this Zerg? I've told him, come kill me, or you're going to lose the game. Like this, it ends now, and QXC wasn't ready for that.
It's tough, man. I mean, you can do a number of things, but getting it all together, you don't have a lot of minerals or because it's all in your production. You could technically like do an eBay wall, let's just say, you know, just throw up 5 eBays.
It's not really the worst idea without Mutalisks being there. Like it's gonna slow them down to some extent because they build so fast. But congratulations to viOlet, who moves on once again to Premier League for the World Championship Series. He competed last season. He got knocked out very early on, playing in Cologne. But he'll be looking to go further this season. Next up, we're going to have Puck versus Xenocider, guys. And then, we'll be going through the rest of the matches, Estrella Massa and Suppy Jadong. But for now, we're going to go to a short commercial break. When we return, Puck versus Xenocider. You're watching the World Championship Series Challenger Day 2. Stay tuned.